The hum of deep space static filled the Command Operations Center aboard the Verdict, Earth's most classified flagship. Dimly lit and encased in layers of security shields, the chamber pulsed with blue-glow data streams, each flicker feeding into the eyes of soldiers trained not just for combat, but for war reborn in silence. At the heart of this fortress of calculation sat General Adrian Voss, cloaked in the sharp regalia of her office, her frame straight, her gaze far-reaching. The peace treaty was in its 5th year. Publicly, it was celebrated as a miracle, an unprecedented accord between humanity and the Varnak Dominion, forged after nearly a decade of brutal war that had stretched across systems. People on Earth lived in the glow of propaganda broadcasts showing alien dignitaries shaking human hands. Voss, however, had never believed a word of it. She had been there at Hylayer's fall. She had seen what the Varnak did to surrendering colonies, and she remembered every civilian outpost the Dominion had scorched under their philosophy of preemptive equilibrium. Now, her belief, or lack of it, was gaining proof. Major Lynn Corvin, her intelligence chief, approached silently, handing her a datapad. "Ma'am, Recon Station K-23 just flagged a deep scan anomaly, pattern Gamma Red. Outer Rotha system." Voss studied the data. Gamma Red meant stealth formations. Unauthorized movement near a neutral trade corridor. Not human. And the Varnak denied it immediately, called it a sensor ghost. Their ambassador has requested a meeting to soothe tensions. She exhaled sharply. They move, then they lie. Again. Corvin nodded. Satellite arrays caught visual displacement before the jump signature faded. They're testing corridors. More like testing us. Voss stood, her boots clicking on the metal grate. Around her, the command crew tracked dozens of quiet indicators, fleet readiness percentages, civilian response matrices, drone supply caches, all set for conflict, yet officially still dormant. She gestured to the central holomap. Quietly reorient the Sentinel-class cruisers to flank K-23. No announcements. Tell Admiral Wren to proceed, as if it's a drill. Echo Gate. Corvin asked. Phase 1. Nothing more. He paused. Understood. Back in her private quarters, Voss allowed the hard mask of command to soften slightly. Her room was minimal, no photos, no personal effects. Just a table, a secure terminal, and an encrypted memory shard that contained footage no one else alive had seen. The Varnak victory feast at Alicia. She hadn't watched it in 3 years, but now she inserted the shard into the terminal. She let the sound play. Cheers. A Varnak priest extolling the virtues of genetic supremacy. Human children in cages behind him. Their cries replaced by static. Voss closed the file. On Earth, peace was sold like a drug. People needed to believe the war had ended. They needed normalcy. But peace, Voss knew, was merely time bought by the side preparing for the next strike. And humanity had prepared, not just militarily. In secret labs under the Carpathian Ridge, Earth's best scientists worked on war algorithms and molecular warfare. Orbital facilities trained enhanced operatives. And the Verdict was its spearhead, silent, invisible, loaded with weapons outlawed by the same treaty humanity had helped draft. She turned to her comm console. Get me Counselor Denar. Secure channel. The screen shimmered, and the aged politician's face appeared, silver-haired, thin-lipped, and weary from the weight of secrets. We've seen the movement, Voss said without greeting. They're mobilizing. Denar nodded slowly. Yes, but the Union Chamber won't act unless there's blood. We must remain within the treaty framework. Voss's tone turned razor-sharp. So we wait for another Alicia? Denar's eyes narrowed. No. We wait for them to break the treaty in a way the public cannot ignore. That's why you've been preparing quietly, General. She ended the call without saluting. Later, in the lower decks of the ship, Captain J.L. Amwarar, the Verdict's tactical engineer, walked alongside Corvin, voice low. She's moving pieces, J.L. said. Feels like more than Phase 1. Corvin glanced sideways. She's calculating risk. She'll only strike when she knows every variable. J.L. looked uneasy. You believe in this war, Lynn? I believe in her judgment. That's enough. Elsewhere, in a dim corner of the armory, Lieutenant Desik Amra reviewed suit diagnostics on his own. He was young, brash, and fresh from training. As his visor recalibrated, he muttered, 5 years of peace, and we're still stuck in cold lockdowns. This isn't war, it's paranoia. A voice behind him spoke. That paranoia is why you're still breathing. Disik turned. Voss stood there, hands behind her back, unreadable. You're not here to enjoy peace, she said. You're here to be ready for when it dies. Disik straightened. Ma'am, I meant no disrespect. None taken. You're right to question. Just make sure you question with your eyes open. A klaxon sounded. Not red alert, yellow. A proximity warning. Voss snapped her wristband open, revealing a tactical overlay. Talk to me. Corvin's voice came through. Unregistered contact. Faint Varnak energy signature. Not a warship, but too large for transport. Voss strode toward the bridge. Track vector. It's drifting, Corvin said, uncertain. Like it's been damaged. Moments later, the object came into visual. A Varnak diplomatic courier vessel. Burned, scorched, half its hull missing. But still transmitting. Voss ordered it docked in Quarantine Bay. When they pried the doors open, they found a single survivor, barely alive. Varnak. Bloodied and disfigured. What shocked them wasn't his species, it was his garb. Not military. Not diplomatic. Spy. In the med bay, he coughed out fractured English. They have not stopped. You must prepare. The peace, just delay. They come. Voss looked down at him, eyes flint cold. We already are. The creature died with a shudder. Voss turned to Corvin. Wipe the logs. No mention of this incident leaves the ship. He nodded. In orbit, the stars spun on. Back on Earth, children played in fields under the banners of the treaty. News anchors laughed. Families slept. And deep in the heart of the verdict, humanity's last illusions burned. Voss watched them turn to ash with calm resolve. She had never needed peace. She had needed time, and now it was nearly up. General Adrian Voss stood before the Earth Security Council's secure chamber, where 12 heads of state loomed behind a veil of holographic opacity. Their faces flickered with synthetic calm, but behind the digitally rendered serenity, Voss saw what they truly were. Politicians dressed in peace while sharpening their blades beneath the table. She spoke with no preamble. The Varnak are preparing for war. Not rumor. Not speculation. We intercepted a courier drone with a compromised Varnak intelligence operative. He died on arrival. Before that, he confessed the peace accord was a strategic pause. Their directive has always been extinction. There was a beat of silence, heavy and deliberate. Counselor Marlowe, representative of the Atlantic conglomerate, finally leaned forward, voice smooth but skeptical. And where is the recording of this confession, General? Voss didn't flinch. Purged. As per protocol. If that drone was a lure, we couldn't afford a digital trace leading back to verdict. Convenient, muttered another delegate. Chang, from the Pacific Dominion. Voss met her gaze coldly. I don't peddle in convenience, Counselor. I operate in preparation. Counselor Denar, ever the balance keeper, raised a hand. Enough. The verdict has provided proof of Varnak movements near restricted zones. That's provocation, but not war. Voss clenched her jaw. And how many provocations will we count before the sky falls again? They're waiting for a weak moment. They believe we've grown complacent. I am asking permission to move Phase 2 into effect. Covert AI grid penetration and position stealth fleets to intercept any non-authorized warp signature near human territory. The council murmured. Denar asked, what's the public narrative? Voss answered without hesitation. Military drills. Exercises. Defense readiness. We don't break the treaty. We bend it just enough. They approved it by majority. Voss didn't smile. She simply turned and walked out, already transmitting encrypted Phase 2 orders before she'd cleared the building. Back aboard the verdict, the ship's AI, TYR, filtered data streams with icy precision. Subroutines spun into action, authorizing cloaked drone deployment and activating long-shelved defensive cyberworms. Malware designed to burrow into Varnak command hierarchies and sleep until needed. Captain Jael Myrr entered the command bay, her boots echoing softly. Phase 2 is live. Stealth fleets are positioning along the orbital ley line routes. Satellites are syncing with the dead grid. Voss nodded, eyes on the holomap. Our advantage isn't firepower. It's that they believe we're still pretending. Still, Jael said, hesitating, we're walking a razor line. One slip, and we're the aggressors. We always were, Voss replied. We just learned how to smile while we sharpened. In the lower data cradle, Lieutenant Dsik Amra monitored the stealth fleet diagnostics. He wasn't speaking much these days. Not since watching the Varnak courier die. That moment had settled into his bones, cold, unfinished. He no longer doubted Voss, though. Doubt had been replaced with something sharper. Expectation. He tapped into a secure channel. Fleet 9 registering an echo signature on the edge of the Rotha system, matching Varnak's stealth cruiser emissions. No transponder. Corvin's voice crackled back. Maintain blackout. If they scan us, ghost their sensors. We let them make the next move. Elsewhere, on Earth, the media gushed with distraction. A broadcast host beamed in front of a crowd of cheering schoolchildren, praising 5 years of interstellar harmony. Behind them, peace banners fluttered beside a looming orbital cannon. Inside a subterranean lab beneath Oslo's diplomatic district, Project Chimera continued in darkness. Engineered soldiers, humans reinforced with biomech enhancements, were monitored in silence. They were the insurance plan, the question mark Voss hadn't dared share with the Council. If war returned in full, Chimera would be the first and last surprise humanity played. Back on the verdict, Voss stared at the slowly rotating schematics of a Varnak relay station. Corvin stepped beside her. The AI worms breached their tertiary net. We're inside their eyes now. And what do we see? He tapped a panel. A projection appeared. Varnak Warfleet blueprints. Not archived. Active. A fleet 3 times the size of the last war, all flagged under diplomatic patrols. Voss's fingers curled. They've already built their future. Now they're just waiting for a story to trigger it. Do we leak it? She shook her head. Not yet. We don't shout. We prepare. In her quarters that night, Voss revisited her war journals. Digital entries written in the field during the war's blackest days. Names she hadn't spoken in years floated back. Commander Talon, lost in the collapse of the Urian Gate. Ambassador Halworth, executed during peace talks when the Varnak called it a cultural ritual. Each name a stone. Each stone, a reason. She activated a new log. If this is found, it means we moved too late. Or just late enough. I have initiated Phase 2. War is not announced with trumpets. It's whispered in silences, in absences. The Varnak believe they understand us. They do not. What they see as human frailty is calculus. We play the long game. And when we strike, there will be nothing left to negotiate. At 0300 hours, the first break came. Fleet 9's cloaked scout drones caught a data pulse. Encrypted Varnak fleet orders sent to a classified station in the Draxel Belt. Unmistakable. Fleet mobilization. Voss summoned her command staff. The situation room burned with urgency. They're moving, JL confirmed. 7 cruisers. Not flagged. They're not cloaked, but they're drifting with false diplomatic transponders. And Earth? Voss asked. Corvin answered. Media's asleep. No leaks. Council's silent. Voss turned to the room. Then we respond. Shadow them. If they cross the treaty line, we tag them. If they fire, we bury them. JL hesitated. And if they don't fire? Then we wait 1 heartbeat longer. Just 1. As the verdict repositioned silently above the asteroid veil, Voss walked to the viewport. Stars stretched like bone fractures across the darkness. Somewhere beyond them, a war already decided was waiting for a spark, and she would be the one to strike the flint. A faint transmission crackled into the bridge, audio only. Scrambled, but distinct. Earth Fleet, Betrayal confirmed. Ascension begins. Voss turned slowly. Record it. Clean it up. And get me Denar. When the Council returned to calm, Voss delivered the clipped audio, cleaned and decrypted. Varnak command channel chatter. A phrase repeated, Ascension protocol. Do you understand now? She asked. They're not preparing for war. They've already launched it in silence. Counselor Denar stared back, pale. What do you need? He asked finally. Voss's voice was ice. Unrestricted authorization. Shadow operations elevated to live engagement. Immediate green light for Phase 3. No hesitation this time. Granted. As the Council vanished, Voss didn't speak. She turned to her crew. Begin. The war had not resumed. It had simply removed its mask. Stars bled past the verdict's reinforced windows like scattered embers across a dying hearth. General Adrian Voss stood alone on the bridge, watching them fall, watching everything that had once felt still begin to tremble. Behind her, the command crew worked with disciplined silence. Every hand moved with purpose, every eye narrowed toward war. The final veil had dropped. Peace was not just broken, it had never existed. TYR's voice cut through the quiet like a scalpel. All fleets confirm synchronization. Chimera units activated across 12 planetary defense nodes, awaiting final authorization. Voss didn't answer immediately. Her gaze drifted to a distant pocket of space, where nothing showed on sensors, yet instinct screamed otherwise. She recalled a phrase her old mentor once whispered during her first campaign. The quiet before war is louder than gunfire. Now she understood. This silence roared. Captain JL MYRR approached, a secure datapad in hand. The Varnak fleets have rerouted. Unmarked warships entering the Brexus corridor. They're not hiding anymore. Because they don't need to, Voss replied. They think we're too fragmented, too polite to fire first. JL hesitated. If we hit them there, there's no going back. The Council will spin it as retaliation, but it will be a beginning, Voss finished. And we need one. A new voice entered. Disik Amra, lean and pale, his face thinner than it had been days ago. He'd been reading the intercepted Varnak communication logs on loop. He stopped only to breathe, eat, and then returned, as if hoping repetition would make the messages make sense. But their cruelty was always clear. They're planning to use Harmony, General, he said quietly. Voss turned. Explain. They're targeting our quantum communication lattice. Harmony isn't just infrastructure, it's our spine. If they fracture it, colonies won't be able to coordinate. Earth would think Mars is silent. Luna would assume it's been cut off. We'll become islands adrift. JL's hand tightened around the datapad. We built Harmony to unite post-war systems. And they intend to unravel it, Voss said. TYR, is the node at Alpha 8 still isolated? Affirmative. Harmony node Alpha 8 is operating in shadow mode under blackout protocols. Then it becomes a keystone, Voss said. If it falls, we all fall. JL asked the question already forming in every mind. And if we defend it? If we preemptively strike the Varnak ships approaching it? Voss answered with iron certainty. Then history will finally record the truth. That we never started this war. We simply finished a lie. TYR interjected. Varnak ships now within strike range of Harmony, node Alpha 8. No communication signals issued. Powering weapons arrays. Voss moved toward the center console. All right. No more whispers. She pressed her palm against the biometric scanner. The lights dimmed, and a tone echoed like a war drum. Red authorization bled across every screen. Phase 3, engaged. Chimera units deployed. Fleet 9 decloaked with surgical precision, cutting a wedge between the Varnak cruisers and the Alpha 8 station. Warning signals pulsed into the void, final diplomacy encoded in sterile light. The Varnak ignored it. They fired. First blood didn't scream across the galaxy. It hissed. Silently. Plasma rounds crossed paths with cloaked drones, and magnetic torpedoes found their mark. Voss didn't blink as the first ship, the Seraphim 7, vanished in an instant of molten gas. JL called out above the thunder of reports. Alpha 8 shields holding. TYR is transferring Harmony protocols to fallback servers. But we've got Varnak boarding pods en route. One breached the node's maintenance ring. Get Chimera on the ground, Voss snapped. We're not losing that node. Disik leaned closer to the comms array. Picking up internal chatter, Varnak strike team is looking for Harmony's core. They know its layout. Voss's stomach dropped. They've studied us for decades. Even during the peace. This was always the play. Within the Alpha 8 station, Chimera Unit A-12 arrived in seconds. Clad in black, refractive armor, their movements were eerie, too fluid to be entirely human. At their center, Operative Kale Doran led the charge, his voice calm over comms. Breach confirmed. Enemy force count, 20. Target, core chamber. Voss recognized his tone. Doran wasn't worried. The feed flickered. Infrared silhouettes danced through smoke-filled corridors as Varnak warriors moved swiftly, taller, lither than humans, with limbs like living blades. They weren't chaotic. They were methodical. But so was Kale. Flank right, he ordered. Push them into the maintenance hatch. Let the corridor collapse behind them. Explosives blew. Metal screamed. Voss watched one Varnak warrior throw himself into the breach. only to be cut down mid-air by Chimera reflex fire. No hesitation. No mercy. Minutes felt like hours. Then the feed stabilized. Kale's voice returned. Core secured. All enemy units neutralized. Minimal casualties. Cheers rippled across the verdict's command bay. Voss didn't celebrate. She turned to JL. They will respond. This wasn't their main push. It was a spark. They wanted to see if we'd flinch. And we didn't. No, Voss said. But they still think we're playing defense. In the void beyond Mars' orbital halo, a ripple in space announced the arrival of something larger. A shape unfurled like a metal flower. A Varnak dreadnought, the Zereveth. It dwarfed the verdict, not by size alone, but by purpose. It was no longer cloaked. Its presence was a declaration. TYR assessed the vessel with calm dispassion. The Zereveth was last documented in Varnak's sacred texts as a war relic, considered myth by analysts. Voss stared at the image. They brought a myth to our door. That's not strategy. That's religion. A communication beacon blinked. Not encrypted. Voss nodded. Open it. A projection shimmered. Varnak High Oracle Severe. Its form humanoid only in silhouette, but layered in undulating plates and organic circuitry. We greet you, General Voss. With no deceit. With no peace. You knew the treaty was a theater. Now, we show you the final act. Voss remained still. You've already failed. Severe tilted its head. Have we? You mobilized. You struck. Humanity always chooses violence in fear of silence. You came for our voice, she replied. You came for harmony. No, the Oracle whispered. We came to erase the lie you told yourselves. That you could tame chaos with paper. The transmission ended. Silence followed. Voss turned to JL. Ready the verdict for full engagement. Target the dreadnought's sensory arrays. We blind them first. As the ship spun into position, weapons warming, TYR noted one final signal. Buried beneath the Varnak comms, a human transmission encoded in obsolete Earth-Mars diplomatic code. Its origin, inside the Zereveth. JL's face paled. We've got a traitor. Embedded. Voss nodded slowly, not surprised. Then we find them. And when we do, the real war begins. The stars outside pulsed with pending fire. And Adrian Voss smiled for the first time. Not from joy, but from certainty. The peace treaty had been a lie. And now, everyone finally knew it.